The market for weight loss and obesity drugs, known as GLP-1, is estimated to reach 100 to 150 billion US dollars by 2030. And as the market grows, GLP-1s are changing consumer appetites, pun intended. Users are drinking less soda and eating fewer fatty processed foods, and they're demanding fresh foods. So, how do these new developments impact global health and food systems? Well, we're going to break it all down for you right here on UBS Trending. Hi, everybody, and welcome to UBS Trending. I'm Anthony Pastore. Thank you so much for being with us today. I am joined in the studio by my friend and colleague, Amantia Muhedini, Sustainable and Impact Investing Strategist with the CIO team. Amantia, great to see you.
Great to see you too, Anthony.
This topic of GLP-1s it's hot, hot, hot. I mean, everybody talks about it, and I know people who use it. I know people who refuse to use it. It's just, there's a lot of polarization around it, but it is helping a lot of people who have severe weight issues. And so here we go. We spent the time, I think, for the last year talking a lot about artificial intelligence. That's like been the topic du jour, but kind of hiding behind the scenes has been these weight loss drugs. Let's talk about what's happening in the space, because as I said in the intro, what it's starting to do is it's becoming part of the normal conversation, and it's changing the way people are thinking about eating and dieting and even exercise, probably more than I think doctors and other people who are in the medical field maybe thought would happen in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and you're right in comparing it with the AI. In some ways, we think of these drugs as having revolutionized the way that the broader public, in particular, is thinking about healthcare, just like AI maybe is changing how we're thinking about technology. So we are, in a way, in the second year of what we could call the Ozempic era. And Ozempic is just one name brand of this class of drug that people may be familiar with. So really what we're talking about here are GLP-1s, which mimic a natural gut hormone that result in significantly cutting appetite. And there's multiple different types of them. There's some that are specifically approved to manage obesity, and there's others that are specifically approved to manage diabetes. Mm-hmm. Now, there's lots of disease which are very closely linked with both of these two areas, in particular if we think of cardiovascular disease, which is kind of the highest instance of healthcare issues globally. So as you're mentioning, Anthony, this can really be dramatically life-changing, and it can have a huge positive impact on global health outcomes, in particular because a lot of these kind of diseases associated with obesity cost globally an estimated $990 billion, so almost $1 trillion on a global basis. Yeah. And now the impact here is huge, but here's the twist on this story. These drugs in the US retail at around $1,000 a pop, a prescription. That number is significant, especially if you think about the populations that are mostly affected, which are those populations that tend to be low income in countries like the US, as well as emerging market populations where the general income levels are much lower. So at $1,000, it becomes really difficult to think of this actually having that sustained impact, and that's why only about 1 out of every 3 people who are initially prescribed these drugs keep taking them beyond the first year. Mm-hmm. The cost is so high. So that needs to change first.
So that's really the biggest, I think, point that it should be made, is that the cost of these, as you just said, they're very, very high. And for most people, that is outside of the realm of reality to afford something like that, regardless of even if it's like a health thing and they're at risk for a cardiovascular event. Some people just still can't afford that. But interestingly, in China, Novo Nordisk, their patent is going to expire at the end of 2026, which leaves room for generic versions to potentially come to market. So how does that potentially then impact the social structure of these drugs, especially if they become more affordable?
Yeah, I mean, that affordability is going to be key, as you say. And this question of what happens when patents expire, which then means generics can come into the market, again, globally across all regions, is that discussion in kind of the healthcare sector right now, what investors are watching. From a social impact perspective, to your point, if you look towards increased affordability over the next, call it, few years, then you can start seeing this this positive impact that we're talking about. And let me give you some more data. From one consumer products kind of surveyor, what we know is that 66% of people who consume or who are on these drugs are reporting that they have less need for soda, they like, kind of those fatty processed foods less, and instead what they're demanding is more fresh food. So this leads us to another thing, right? Let's say that we do get to the point of affordability. Now we suddenly have more demand for fresh food. And guess what? Fresh food is another question of sustainability and affordability.
That's right.
Because it's very challenging for people around the world, in particular in emerging markets, where you have these challenges to actually access it.
Yeah, there was a study done in the UN that you were sharing with me that said that there were something like 2.8 billion people in the world currently, or as of 2022, that cannot afford a healthy diet of fresh food. And I know that that is very true in our own city here in New York, and of course, all over the world. As you said, it is prevalent in emerging markets, but it's a reality here as well. So as the demand for these fresh, more healthy foods goes up, what does that do for affordability? Because right now, the easy solution is to go the fast food route where it's much less expensive. But of course, if anybody who knows what's in those foods at a fast food place know that it's not the healthiest option.
That's right. I mean, it's almost like, what if we just thought experiment? We give away GLP-1s to everyone who needs them in the world. So what? Will their life kind of really truly change? That's the question.
Yeah.
And that study that you're citing, to make it a little bit more real here, in countries like India, for example, what they estimated was that the median income earner would need to spend 100% of their income a year on food in order for their diet to kind of meet these health and fresh food criteria. 100%. It means no shelter, it means nothing else, right? In China, which is further up that income level, it would still be 33%. For us sitting in the US or in developed markets, you'd think of housing as being about 30% of your income, not food. Now, in France, it's about 6 to 7%. In the US, it's even less. So we have two frames here. One is we have to rethink our relationship with food. That's what this innovation in GLP-1s is doing. What is being craved? What do we need? But two, we also have to then rethink our relationship between food and agriculture. What is produced? How does it get to people? Right? Those are so important. And in some ways, that is kind of that longer term market thesis that matters here beyond this sector of healthcare.
Yeah, and by the way, as I said in the beginning, I do have some, people in my life who are on various versions of Ozempic or other GLP-1s that are out there, and they have described what you're saying, which is that they don't really crave those processed fatty foods, the salty foods anymore. They really want that fresh. They would like a salad or a piece of grilled chicken or a piece of salmon, because I guess what happens when you're eating those bigger, more processed foods is the reaction that's happening in your digestive system is impacted by taking the GLP-1, which is not a great one. They say they feel full and they feel heavy, and it's not more than usual. So it's not surprising to hear that these studies are showing these things as well. So here, I guess the whole point is we're not really seeing what, ever since I was a child, it's been, I wish there was a pill that I could take that I would just lose 20 pounds. So there's no such thing as a miracle drug, right? But especially when it comes to the affordability of GLP-1s, and of course we're talking about the affordability of food, what shift in the culture and in overall consumption and the food and beverage industry has to happen here?
I mean, so much, right? And the reason why there's no miracle drug, so to speak, is because you're talking about systems change. And so really what we need to rethink are the relationship also of agriculture and the planet. Like we talk so much about the environment. These are very resource intensive type of kind of industry areas, right? And what we need is kind of higher yields, which come in competition perhaps with some of these needs for fresh food. So that needs to be rethought. Now, in the very near term, while we rethink agricultural systems, huge ask here, there's also an opportunity for engagement with those food and beverage companies that are providing to consumers directly some of these foods that we're talking about. So there's opportunity to help for investors to help guide them towards more kind of sustainable in terms of kind of human health practices of producing, sourcing, and then getting to end consumer products, hopefully in ways that are going to be affordable once you reach the scale.
Right. And I know this is a topic for another discussion, but we've talked in the past about the sustainability of farming because it requires a lot of water, but there's new vertical farming type, well, not new, it's a technology that's been around for a couple of years, but there's vertical farming and there's other ways that we're thinking about being sustainable while also having more access to healthy foods, et cetera. So I know this is something that you're talking about on a consistent basis. So thanks for sharing this story with us. The GLP-1, tales and the stories that we're talking about continue and they grow. And so this is only going to be a topic that we're scratching the surface on right now. I'm sure we'll be talking about this a lot in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And everything connects.
That's absolutely, yeah. This kind of what do we call it? The circular economy? That's another story that we'll talk about one of these days. Anyway, Amanta, thank you for being here. It's always good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Amantia Muhedini from the Chief Investment Office. And for more information on anything that Amantia and I discussed today on the show, make sure to visit our website, ubs.com/views. Plus, you can follow UBS on social media. We're on all the major channels, including our own dedicated Instagram channel. Follow us at UBS Trending. It's right there on your screen, so give us a follow there. And as always, if you have questions about what we spoke about today or want to discuss your portfolio, make sure you're talking with your financial advisor. Until next time, I'm Anthony Pastore. Have a great rest of your day, and remember to keep your eyes on what's trending. We'll see you soon.